In 1887, on the outskirts of Le Havre, France, a man was found dead on a lonely stretch of beach. No weapon, no witnesses, just a set of footprints leading to the body, and then, impossibly, disappearing into the waves. Investigators soon realized something chilling. The killer had left behind clues far too precise, too deliberate, almost like the murderer wanted to be found. But nothing prepared them for the truth. Because the man who would eventually solve this case, the man who pieced together each clue, would come to a horrifying conclusion. He was the killer. This is the disturbing case of Robert Ledru, the detective who uncovered his own crime. On the morning of November 25th, 1887, a man named André Monet was discovered lying motionless on the beach near Le Havre. He had been shot once, a single bullet to the back. There were no signs of a struggle, no robbery, no footprints around him, except one set. And then came the detail that baffled everyone. Those footprints stopped abruptly at the shoreline. The killer had simply vanished. Local authorities, overwhelmed and under-resourced, called in a specialist, one of Paris's most respected detectives, Robert Ledru, a brilliant investigator, a man known for noticing what others overlooked. But no one realized he was about to notice something about himself. Ledru arrived at the beach that afternoon. He was tall, with tired eyes, a man who'd seen too much of humanity's darker side. He had been battling an illness for months, a strange condition that caused him weakness, trembling, and worst of all, episodes of memory loss. Still, he was determined to crack this case. Ledru crouched near the body, studying the sand. The footprints were clear. The killer wore no shoes, only socks. That was unusual, but not impossible. Then, Ledru made a discovery that froze him in place. He called to the officers, "Bring me a measuring stick." They watched as he measured the footprints, and then quietly compared them to the bottom of his own feet. They matched. Exactly. Not just in size, but in a peculiar shape. Ledru's right foot had a slight inward turn due to an old injury. So did the footprints in the sand. He felt his stomach twist. "No," he whispered. This cannot be." But it got worse. Ledru ordered the beach searched again. Every detail pointed to a single conclusion. The killer walked barefoot in socks. The gait was identical to Ledru's. The footprints were the same size. The angle of the right foot was identical. The timing of the murder matched the hours Ledru was unaccounted for. Ledru felt a cold sweat building. He excused himself, went back to his lodging that night, and inspected his belongings. That's when he noticed it. His socks were damp, still crusted with grains of sand. Worse, his revolver was missing one bullet. Ledru collapsed into a chair. He tried to remember the night before, but his mind was foggy, broken, lost. Was it possible he had murdered a stranger in his sleep? And if so, why? The next morning, Ledru walked into the police headquarters, his face pale, his hands trembling. He approached the chief of detectives and delivered a statement so shocking, the room fell silent. "I believe," he said, "that I am the man you are looking for." At first, they thought he had lost his mind, but Ledru was known for his integrity and his brilliance. He explained the footprints, the missing bullet, the wet socks. Then he described his illness, the episodes of sleepwalking, blackouts, moments where he was awake but not aware. He believed he may have been suffering from a form of dissociative fugue long before it was medically known. But there was one detail that troubled him the most. The victim, André Monet, was a sailor, the same kind of man Robert Ledru had been investigating for months during a smuggling operation. Had his unconscious mind sought revenge? Or was it something far darker? Ledru begged them, "Place me under guard. Test me. Prove that I am or am not a murderer. And so, they did. What happened next made even the most skeptical officers believe him. The police arranged a controlled experiment. They placed Ledru in a secure room inside a police facility with guards watching him around the clock. They confiscated his gun, but left an unloaded pistol on the bedside table. Everyone waited. That night, around 2 a.m., the guards witnessed something terrifying. Robert Ledru rose from his bed, eyes glazed, movements mechanical. He took the pistol, walked to the door, attempted to cock and fire it at one of the guards. The click of the empty chamber echoed in the small room. The guards restrained him. Ledru woke up disoriented, horrified. I don't remember, he whispered. I don't remember any of it. This proved two things. Ledru did sleepwalk. In that state, he was capable of violence. The authorities had no choice but to accept the unbelievable. Detective Robert Ledru likely had killed Monet, not out of intent, but out of a subconscious madness triggered by illness. But what do you do with a man who committed a murder he didn't know about, and might do it again? The courts faced a dilemma. There was no precedent, no clear answer. The courts faced a dilemma. There was no precedent, no clear answer. Ledru was not sane during the crime, but he was clearly dangerous. They couldn't execute him. They couldn't imprison him with criminals he'd arrested, and they certainly couldn't let him roam free. So they did something strange. They sentenced him to house arrest. For the rest of his life, Robert Ledru lived on a remote farm, guarded day and night. He was allowed to walk the grounds, but he could never leave, never return to society, never handle a firearm again. Over the years, his condition worsened. He suffered more blackouts, more sleepwalking episodes, and he reportedly admitted privately, "I am afraid that I am two men." He remained isolated until his death. A brilliant detective, a chilling crime, and a mind at war with itself. The story of Robert Ledru forces us to confront a terrifying thought. If we are not always in control of our minds, how much of ourselves can we truly trust? If you enjoyed this mystery, subscribe, because the next story is even stranger than this one.